I'm Cindy, and my granddaughter is here with me. She's my techie person. She's 9 years old. Her name is Aria. Aria often calls me Maz. When she first started talking, her daddy would say, well, let's go to Grandma's, and she kind of hooked on that last part, so I'm actually known as Maz around here. So today what we're going to do is paint cupboards, and I decided to paint them because in researching using a spray painter is pretty costly. So to start with, what you want to do is you want to clean your cabinets really well. And I had taken them off of my cupboards. I removed all the hardware, and I use this crud cutter. And what you do is you just spray it on and let it set a few seconds. Some of my cupboards, you know, along these little corners, I ended up using a little steam cleaner to kind of blow out those corners because they're hard to get. But not, generally the crud cutter did a really great job. So once you get that set for a little bit, I use the Scotch-Brite, and you just go along your cupboards. And it will take off old paint and that really kind of gray, gooey stuff. A lot of times you find around where the handles were. And just kind of scrub it good. Be sure and get your edges great. And all of this corner. And you can kind of tell when you've got it pretty darn clean, because if it's kind of sticky and gooey, your Scotch-Brite kind of will stick along to it and you'll see it kind of roll off. So when it's nice and smooth, you got it done pretty well, then I take a wet cloth and just go around it all. And get all of that off. Like that. And then I go back with a dry towel and I dry it. The recommendations is to try your crud cutter out on an insuspicious place. And I tell you that it didn't do any damage to my cupboards at all. It just worked really great in getting them clean. Okay, so generally when I go to paint a cupboard, I start on the back side and I prime it. So when you get a primer, they sell, a lot of times you'll see prime and paint all in one. It's probably best if you're especially doing cupboards to actually use a primer and then your paint, whichever color that you would like. The primer that I chose was this Zinser, Zinser, It's a cover stain, and what's great about it is a oil base. Reason why you want to use oil base is your cabinets take a lot of abuse, and oil base is a great way to harden that paint up and keep it from chipping and being kind of nasty. So I usually always start at the top across, and then I do the bottom. And I do the outside first, which the reason why is when you're doing this outside, you'll get some little pooling in the corners. And you don't want that paint that is going to pool there. So once you get those corners painted, initially I don't worry about the edges because I used to paint the edges, and then when I would turn over a cabinet or whatever I was painting, I'd see all these runs. So now I do the outside edges when I do the front. of the cabinet. So when you're going to get in these corners, you can kind of see here there's a pool of paint. And you don't want that to stay there. So that's why I do the outside first. And then my brother used to say, use a dry brush. So a dry brush, you don't have much paint on it, and you use that for those corners. And then I usually load up my brush, stick it in the middle, and then I'll use that to paint the rest of my cupboard. Now with oil base, you can't clean your brush with water or anything. You've got to use either a mineral oil or a paint thinner and clean your brush that way when you're done. The other thing is, you kind of worry when you're doing cabinets, you don't want all these brush marks. And when you're priming, you're going to have brush marks because you're using that oil base. And that's okay. When you go back and you use your regular paint, then it will, you won't, if you get a really good brush and good paint, then you won't be seeing your brush marks. So I'm going to scoot this to the side. Now, this cabinet here has glass in it. And you see, I always number my cabinets because it's a lot easier when you get done to know exactly which cabinet goes where. I cleaned this earlier. So what I'm going to do is I don't want to get paint on my glass. Makes it a little easier to paint. You don't have to just be really crazy precise when you're getting those corners, when you're painting, if you have some masking tape there. And I just take a little straight edge that tears it, and I go around all my corners. When I was a little girl, my dad was a painter, and I'd work with him all through the summers. And he would pay me at the end of the day by getting me a Pepsi Cola and some peanuts. I put that in my bottle of pop, and I was just happy because my mom wouldn't allow us to have any pop in the house. So working all day with Dad was really kind of a treat because I'd get that soda at the end. When I worked with my dad, he brushed some, but he mainly did spray. So he would spray both the inside of a home or buildings. He did some painting for Westinghouse, or he'd paint inside. He also did those, he's the man to blame for all those popcorn ceilings that you see. That was the thing back there. And they'd blow those popcorn ceilings up there, and he'd make them special. He'd put a little sparkle in them too. So I've had a great time in our home here taking down popcorn ceilings, and I'll have to do a video on that. I kind of got that down after about 15 rooms, ceilings. I've got it down pretty good, best way that works. So I've gotten quite a few of my cabinets done this morning. We are doing, with COVID, we are doing internet or teaching on the internet with our granddaughter. So she's my inspiration for this YouTube video, and she was busy doing her language arts and class there for science. So that's how you kind of mask around it. I'm going to go ahead and show you painting the front side of the cabinet. This one's grab this one. It's dry. Okay, so when I do, this is going to be the front of the cabinet. Again, I mark it, switch it back over here so I know which cabinet it is. And now I'm going to get along those edges. So again, I get just a tad on my brush, and I don't want it all on there because I'm just going to dry brush again. And just go along the edges here. The other day I cleaned my cabinets while Ari was online doing her classes. I was substituting for her papa. I was the English teacher, and so while she was doing her language arts, I was cleaning all these cabinets in the room with her. I also do her physical ed. I'm her PE teacher, and I'm also the lunch lady when I'm home. I'm a nurse, and I work in an urgent care clinic. But I've always liked, my dad died when I was 18, and I've always liked painting because when I paint, I kind of have a chance to really think about him and the things that we did. I helped him with. Again, I take a little towel, go around the edges. I don't want anything on the back side of these all goobered up. And then lay it down. And load it up. Certainly, spray painting your cabinets is quick. My dad, I said, you know, he was a spray painter, and there was a 2-week span that when I came home from school, our house were different colors. It started out white, and then one day I came home and it was yellow, and I messed up. I started going on the side here. The next day it was yellow, and by the end of the 2 weeks, my mom didn't like that color either, so it ended up being a gray. So you can certainly, when you spray paint, it's certainly a lot quicker, but it's also expensive. I was kind of checking into buying a good sprayer to paint my kitchen, and heck, they run about $2,000 or more. I was kind of investigating how to paint the cupboards, and you know, I don't have a paint booth, and so they were talking about using a garden building, you know, that greenhouse to paint in, and they said, oh, you could get them for $40. Well, I wish I could have. I maybe would have done that, but they're not $40. So you run about $1,000 to $1,500, and you're using it to paint, you know, your cupboards. So again, take your dry brush, go along the corners, be sure and get any runs you have. And then load up your brush, go in the center, and then come back around and get your edges. And do that. So my kitchen, I'm painting, the majority of it is going to be white. And then the other side is going to be kind of a sage green. But white is a really difficult color to get. There's so many colors of white. So when you decide that if you're gonna paint your cupboards white, you know, get your little sample piece and take it home. Take it outside, kind of look at it, make sure, see if it is kind of have a pink or yellow or blue or green base to it, because it's going to look a lot different when you bring it in your home. And then once you kind of see what that white looks like outside, bring it in, put it on your cabinet, kind of move it around for a few days and see what it's going to look. Make sure you don't end up with pink cabinets or yellow cabinets that you're not happy with. When you do a primer, you can, what did I do? When you do a primer, you can stain or add coloring to your primer. I usually don't. I just wait, and I generally will put 2 coats of paint on it. But basically, with the oil base, you can't wash your brushes with water or soap. You need to use either mineral spirits or paint thinner, and that will clean up your brushes fairly nicely. When you're doing cabinets, it's a good idea to use either a 2.5 or a 2-inch brush, because you don't need a 4-inch that's going to drag along the side. Ideally, you know, if you want to be careful and you're working, be sure and prep the area. Put some, I use cardboard usually down on my wooden floors when I paint upstairs, but you can put some tarps down. I'm in a room that my granddaughter and I are going to work on. I've taken the popcorn ceiling off. This is a room that comes in from our garage, and we had a wall there, and Aria was able to knock it down in a couple kicks with a sledgehammer. So we're going to finish this room out and make it a mud room when you come in from the garage, and shiplap it and do some cool things in here. But it's in the works, and so I felt this was a good area to work on my cabinets, and I didn't have to be real particular if I got a little paint on the floor. Listen, thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope it's economical for you to do it yourself. You can do this. If you like this video, please subscribe. And my granddaughter wants to add just a few things.
You should like, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications.
Thank you so much. Have a good day and good luck.